Hi everyone, so we are looking at social factors and food selection today. So some of the social factors that influence our dietary intake include food habits or patterns, so whether you like to sit on the couch and eat lots of Cheetos, your knowledge of food and how well you conduct yourself in the kitchen, your response to advertising, whether you give in to peer group pressure, and also your available food supply. So, in terms of food habits, generally the types of food available are selected by certain groups in the community. The method of food preparation usually influences the type of food that you might have, how the food is served and eaten, and the portion size of the meal. So, for example, with food preparation, it might be used, you might have steamed vegetables compared to, say, roasted vegetables, or how the food is served is it might be individual plates or a buffet, or perhaps at a table or in front of the TV. I'm sure everyone's a bit guilty of having food in front of the TV. And then there's also the portion size of the meal. So whether it's a large meal that's eaten less often or whether you have smaller, more snacky meals throughout the day. So looking at some food habits, also when the time that the meals are eaten. So for example, the Hobbit diet, they're talking about having a lot of different snacky small meals throughout the day in comparison to, say, having 3 square meals, which is what some people, or is what is more socially acceptable in Western society. And some other things include behaviours within the group as well. So whether you have a second serving or you eat everything on your plate. So the knowledge about food will also impact on your nutrition that you receive and does affect your ability to make judgment on what is good nutrition. So some nutritional information, places that you can access that information include the TV, magazines, food products, the internet, blogs, books, dietitians, nutritionists, even your family and your peers as well. Now, it is important to think that some sources may be more reliable than others. So you might want to think about the credibility of your sources as well. So the nutrition knowledge may also be applied appropriately. So you may know that you shouldn't do something, but you're going to do it anyway. So you choose to eat your junk food over your healthy food, even though you know the healthy food is better for you, but you just don't want to do that. Often a health scare might be a motivator to learn more about nutrition or the knowledge of lifestyle diseases and how they could be reversed with dietary choices. Say, for example, people that have to learn to adapt their lifestyle to a disease like type 2 diabetes. So many people in the community are interested in healthy lifestyles and following good diets and routines, including exercise, but there has to be motivation behind that. So food preparation can also influence what food you select. So if you are able to cook, that's a great advantage because you are better able to achieve good nutrition rather than having to rely on convenient meals. It does give the person cooking the opportunity to modify recipes to suit personal needs and tastes. And you can also control the amount of fat, sugar, salt, and other preservatives that would be in the food. It's also cheaper to cook your own rather than to commercially prepare products. And the reason for this being is that you're not paying for someone to prepare and cook the food for you, as well as the packaging, transportation, and advertising associated with advertising that ready-made product. So if you are an inexperienced or rushed cook, you may need to take a shortcut. So we can use shortcuts like ready-made products, whether they be pasta sauces like the Legos range, or it might be the curry paste, because not everyone will have time to create their own curry paste from scratch. And this is a better nutritional choice than relying on takeaway, but it is better if you can prepare some of these, particularly these sauces yourself, because they do have added preservatives like sugar or sodium in them that do make them a little bit less healthy for you. So often cooking traditions might be passed down from one generation to the next, and that can then influence on your ability to prepare food as well. So responses to advertising will have a huge impact on the foods that you choose. So advertising is very powerful. I'm sure all of you have come across at some point wanting to, you've seen an advert and you're like, oh, I must have that product. I'm a sucker for Magnum ice creams, and every time they advertise, it works on me every time. So the advertising is there to entice us to buy the product, and it's usually to benefit either the people that are producing the food, the company that's making the food, the advertising company as well, because if they can advertise and increase sales, then the food producer or the company will hire them again, and the retailer as well. So advertising campaigns can give misleading information to people by getting people to draw a wrong conclusion. So whether it's looking at, I'm sure all of you have seen those adverts where you've got young, healthy, fit people and they're all eating Maccas, or they're eating summer stunner meals from Hungry Jack's, and it's like, no, not really. In real life, do those people that look that fit eat that food? So it can be a bit unrealistic. Advertisers will rarely take nutrition into account unless it's an advertising point. So, for example, people that are gluten intolerant or vegan, that might be an advertising, but it's purely there to get people hooked into buying the product. So regular exposure to ads does start to brainwash you into wanting the food. And I'm sure all of you can probably think of a time where you want, after looking at adverts, particularly I know when you watch the football, the amount of times that you see Macca's adverts. So advertising, there has actually been links made between the advertising in children's viewing times in the afternoon and the increased obesity levels in Australian children. Not to mention other advertising campaigns like 2 for 1 and upsizing are often used with highly processed, high-fat, sugary foods. And once you're hooked, you continue to be a loyal customer, and you will buy it when it's not 2 for 1. So sometimes advertising will be a little bit misleading. So a product might claim that it's got 20% of your whole grain target as a source of fiber and contain no artificial colors or flavors, but it might be really high in fat and is 30% sugar. Another claim was that Australians are often being confused by nutrition claims. So you'll see supermarket aisles that are littered with products that are 99% fat-free. If you've ever bought a packet of marshmallows, you'll see that advertisement on marshmallows, which is ridiculous because they're just full of sugar. Another advertisement is high in protein claims, and they're often there to cover other poor nutritional choices that they have in their panel. So it's really important to actually pay attention to that nutritional panel. And often they'll use advertising to make things appear more appealing than they actually are. So peer pressure is another one. So there has actually been research in the British Psychological Society where they know that a social network, that body weight runs in peer groups and is the best predictor of our body weight is that of our friends. So they know that children that eat when their friends eat, and that the desire to fit in drives much of that human behavior. So if your friends go out and get McDonald's for lunch, you're going to want to go and do that too. But it's at the same time, it can also have a positive impact as well. So if your friends start to eat healthy, then this could actually cause a domino effect that could make other friends want to change to be healthy too. So research does actually suggest that you're 57% more likely to pack on serious weight if your friends are overweight or obese. based on peer group pressure. So the availability of food supply is also a huge one as well. So this is from a report from, is it in the late 2000s? So I think about 2012 maybe, looking at the what is called the healthy food basket. So the affordability of healthy food in either a metro or rural area, looking at different family types. So the relationships that exist between these four graphs, tables, is that people living in isolated areas may not have the option to shop weekly, or they drop out of the supermarket. So they rely on canned food or frozen products, and also the food cost as well. So table 2, looking at this one here, there's a 2% increase in money spent on healthy food basket for all family types, whether it be retro or rural. So there's not a huge impact here. However, if we move over to different socioeconomic status, which is reflected in tables 3, 5, and 6, we'll notice that with a high socioeconomic status, so people that have a lot of money, they will see minimal impact on the percent of money they spend on their disposable house income, whether they live in a rural or a metro area. So it's 9.1, 9.5, 8.6, and 8.2. So minimum effort. And it's the same for low socioeconomic impact as well. There's very difference between rural and metro, but what is really interesting to see is the amount of or percentage of family income for mean affordability is that for high socioeconomic areas, it's a 10% of the income, whereas for low socioeconomic areas, it's actually 30%, which is huge. What you will notice if you look at table 5 is that the more remote the area, the higher the affordability of food is. And this specifically impacts on low socioeconomic people, particularly families as well. So in summary of those 4 tables, you have an increase in cost with an increase in remoteness, and a big increase for single parents going from metro to remote compared to single adults and pensioners. And socioeconomic status does have an impact as well on the portion. So the other thing that we're going to look at today is disordered eating and that impact on food selection. So many people have difficulty achieving a good nutrition because of a disordered eating pattern. Now, disordered eating patterns can include fad dieting, yo-yo dieting, anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa. So we're going to have a look at all of these. So causes of disordered eating are usually changes to behaviours, and they are difficult to diagnose, but it's usually as a result of dissatisfaction with body size or shape. So the media has also been blamed for the trends in disordered eating, especially among young women, because of this unattainable body image. So other pressures in a person's life can also trigger disordered eating patterns as well. So some of the fad diets that you might be familiar with, usually a diet that's highly publicized that offers quick weight loss and is fashionable for a period of time, is the definition of a fad diet. It's often promoted in magazines and in social media and is often used by celebrities. So the Kardashians are notorious for fad dieting. Pete Evans is another one that loves his paleo diet. Often fad dieting will require the reduction of a particular food group, which is how you can identify it as a fad diet. And this food group will usually be blamed as the cause of weight gain. And if you exclude it, you'll start losing weight automatically. And if it was that easy, we wouldn't have obesity. Okay, so fad dieting usually includes an initial weight loss, but it's actually generally due to water loss because you're just consuming less food. And usually the weight loss is short-lived and generally doesn't meet the promises made by the diet. So generally the the diet is only recommended for a limited time. So it might be 14-day detox, or it might be 30-day cleanse, and does not really encourage any long-term dietary improvements because they don't exist. By the way, detoxes never, ever, ever work because you have these two organs in your body called your liver and your kidney, and they actually detox your body naturally so that you don't actually have to go on a detox diet. So other examples of fad diets include the keto diet, which is the ketogenic diet, which excludes a whole bunch of food groups, which is again why it's called fad diet, paleo diet, Atkins diet. There's a whole bunch of fad diets. So you can include diets that are high in one macronutrient and low in others, or they can be meal replacements or celebrity diets. So for example, high protein, low carb diet, or Dr. Kwan's tapeworms. I don't recommend you try that one. Or Slim Fast is another option, so all those shakes. Okay, so yo-yo dieting usually is where followers swap fad diets between one diet and an alternate diet. So they're constantly going up and down. And the food restriction tends to reduce the BMR. So they have a lower BMR, but any return to a normal eating pattern usually results in weight gain. Your body's actually really good at responding to stress. So if you start to go on, say, a starvation diet where you restrict your kilojoule intake, your body, if you continue to do that, will adjust, lower its BMR. And then when you binge in anywhere between that yo-yo dieting, you'll actually put on weight. So it's not good or effective at all for weight gain. So there's a whole problem with fad diets. I'm not going to go through these. You can have a look at them in the PowerPoint in your own time. Okay, so looking at some of the eating disorders that exist, anorexia nervosa is one where people weigh about 85% less than what is expected, characterized by low body weight and body image distortion, and is a psychiatric illness and can, in some cases, result in death through starvation and malnutrition, which is horrific. So severe emaciation, like Barbie over there, occurs where you just look very sickly. Mostly affects young women, however you can have young men and older women that develop the disease as well. And in adulthood, it's usually caused by grief or depression. So in adolescence, it often results from an inability to cope with adult pressures or conflicts, emotional problems or responsibilities. And usually the person will have a BMI of about more or less than 17.5. So there are a huge amount of risk factors for anorexia nervosa. So low self-esteem, anxiety or depression, fear of adulthood, difficulty expressing emotions, not being able to cope, perfectionism, fear or avoidance of conflict, impulsive or obsessive behaviours, a need to please others, highly concerned with the opinions of others, and black and white thinking. As well as cultural values, looking at thinness and perfect body, people's ability to be shallow, the portrayal of men and women's body shapes that are not usually representative of real men and women, pressure to achieve and succeed, and also professions that emphasize body shape and size. So other biological factors could include an imbalance of certain chemicals in the brain, or if you've got a parent or sibling with an eating disorder, you're actually at a higher risk. So some other major changes in life may bring on anorexia nervosa, as well as dieting, peer pressure, inability to deal with stress, a family history of obesity, depression or substance abuse, troubled relationships, physical or sexual abuse, a history of bullying or teasing, specifically around weight or shape. So some of the symptoms of anorexia include distorted body image, seeing a body that's much larger than what it is in reality, really strict attitudes towards eating food, a loss of menstrual periods as well. Lango, which is an excess of fine body hair, excessive exercising to burn extra kilojoules, self-induced vomiting, feeling cold when others may be warm, and a lower BMR due to fasting. So other symptoms include low self-esteem, mineral and fluid imbalances, which could cause kidney failure, heart attack, and death. So that's pretty severe consequences. Dry, scaly skin, extreme fatigue, tooth decay, and some other signs and effects as well. So some of the behaviors include lying about food, using laxatives or diuretics, vomiting after eating, mood changes, perfectionism, aggressive when forced to eat foods that they don't want to, excessive exercise, and usually about 40% of people with anorexia nervosa will later develop bulimia as well. So some of the treatments include counseling, psychological help, constant and close supervision, and some of the problems associated with anorexia include that relapses are common. 30% of cases that are not, where treatment is not received, do actually result in death, whether it be through malnourishment, heart or kidney failure, dehydration, exhaustion, or even suicide. So bulimia nervosa is the other eating disorder and is characterized by repeated episodes of binge eating, and often starts with a weight loss dieting in the pursuit of thinness. So you will compulsively eat, and then you will throw up, and then you'll compulsively eat again, and it is a very vicious cycle. So usually a large amount of food is eaten within a very short period of time, and the feeling of sense of loss of control while eating will then make the person feel like they have to gain control, and that's where they will physically make themselves vomit in an attempt to gain control. So it is all about control. So it is a psychological disorder because you've got that uncontrolled eating. The purging is a way of trying to stay in control, and they will consume very little to a lot of food, and they might use vomiting or laxatives to prevent weight gain. And usually a person that is bulimic will be of normal or average weight, so it's less obvious for people to work out if someone is bulimic. So some of the symptoms of bulimia include dental decay, abdominal pain, nausea, headaches, and fluid imbalances, kidney problems, potassium depletion, particularly if laxatives are used. And some of the treatments include seeking help from health professionals. Often bulimia will go unnoticed because it's pretty hard to detect it, unlike anorexia. Hospital care isn't usually necessary. It does require counselling though, and its usually success is linked to encouraging sufferers to feel happy and confident and comfortable about their body shape, and establishing strategies to maintain an appropriate diet and trying to stay in control.